One, well, it's Monday night, and you know what that is
Mhm.
because you're here. That is the physicist and philosopher. I am the philosopher, our Wayne Steiger, and our physicist, Dr. Claudia Albers. How are you,
Hello.
Claudia?
Hello, I'm very well. Thank you,
Good.
Wayne.
Thank
And
you.
you?
Doing good, doing good.
Good.
I have to make sure I'm muted here. I am. So, how have you been this week? Just want to welcome everyone, by the way. Hello, Sue G. How are you doing? Claudette, all the moderators, and Sarah K., and just a whole room full. So,
hmm
Claudia,
Yes, hello,
there.
everybody, and the MFA members who will be watching this. Hello
Thank
to
you,
you.
NFA members. Thank you, Scott.
hmm
And big shout out to Scott as well. And so, how has your week been?
Yeah, very busy. I had a lot to write. Sometimes I'm spoiled for choice. I have so many things I want to write on. I have to choose. I have to decide what is most important right now for me to write. And that's what I try to do. It is just so much. I have a whole lot of articles that I could write right now, but it takes time to write an article properly.
It does, and I don't think people realize that
Yeah,
it's
it takes thinking. And the worst part of it is the end. I have to edit it
hmm
because there's always little things that crop up. And I just do not like reading it. And it's difficult to catch your own mistakes,
it is.
but got to be done.
I had to write business plans,
Uh-huh.
and and
Yeah.
your white papers. It's the organization of the thought, and then the communication of the thought.
hmm
It is so. Well, I think the world is definitely changing, Dr. Albers. I'm convinced that something is afoot.
I think there's a lot going on as well. A, a lot going on. I wouldn't even know where to start, but it looks like they're trying to start Third World War.
Looks like
Looks like they're
something.
collapsing the economy. Looks like it's just going crazy.
It is going crazy. So as I do, I pulled up some articles that kind of gives us a little flavor of what is actually happening in the world today. So
Mm.
um, I have been finding it odd, Claudia, that there seems to be more and more UFOs.
Mm.
And I mean, not fuzzy pictures, not blurry pictures. I mean, we're talking very crisp, clear
Mm.
pictures. And
Yes.
I just pulled up a couple, and apparently, here in the last 10 days, we've had sightings in Lake Norman, North Carolina. Just one that was posted yesterday, I think, was
hmm
from Myrtle Beach, a whole fleet.
Wow.
Um, and the one in Myrtle Beach, Claudia, which was so interesting, and I don't know if if it's going to show up here, but it was hiding in a thunderstorm. All of these crafts were.
mm.
So it makes you think that, is it ours? Some definitely some very weird captures on the ISS. Folks, I just say this. I used to be an avid watcher of the cameras, and a couple of them have been shut down permanently. But apparently, Claudia, there are more and more. Um, Obviously, that they are craft of some kind around the
hmm
ISS.
hmm
Here's one out of Dayton, Ohio.
Wow, look at that. My
Um,
goodness, that's a strange craft.
it's a very strange one. And I have others here. Um, Very, very weird.
Mm.
So here is another one.
It looks like
Uh,
a wing.
It does. By the way, thought that this was very interesting, Claudia, since we're kind of on the philosophy side of this thing. It looks like something's happening to the male species,
Mm.
um, particularly in the fact worldwide is the sperm count of younger men. is down by 35%
Wow.
from from the baby boomers.
My goodness.
Claudia, that
Well, all the toxins in our environment cannot be helpful for that kind of thing, surely.
no, I agree. And something is going on. I was thinking if you were looking for a mass extinction event, well, you could do it almost by the fact that you would let the species breed out.
Yes.
I don't
I
know.
think they wanted a little bit. They don't want to take the time. I think they want the culling process to be a little faster than one generation. That's the thing.
Well, if the rate it's going now, you can extrapolate that out. And I think they said by 2130, we would be basically on the verge of extinction.
Yeah.
Now, here's one, Claudia, that the 5G network that is now live, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Did you know that it's the same EMF waves that they do for crowd control?
I didn't know, but I'm not surprised. I'm sure that 5G is nothing good for us.
No, ma'am.
And it will be probably worse than we can even imagine.
We ought to get Scott in on this conversation because I know he could definitely add some flavor to this.
Yeah, I think they're not planning anything good. You know, mind control has always been one of the things that they were planning from the beginning, you know, controlling the masses by controlling their mind. So not surprised.
Yeah, and here's the thing that I did not realize. The new cell network uses high band radio frequencies, millimeter waves, to deliver high bandwidth data to any device within line of sight. That's the freaks. Okay. Today's cellular and Wi-Fi networks rely on microwaves, a type of electromagnetic radiation utilizing frequencies up to the 6 gigahertz in order to wirelessly transmit voice or data. However, 5G applications will require unlocking a new spectrum bands in higher frequency ranges above the 6 gigahertz. Are you ready for this, Claudia? 100 gigahertz.
Oh my goodness, that is terrible.
That's an exponential. I mean, if you take that each consistent gigahertz.
You know, the higher the frequency, the higher the energy.
Thank you. And now you can begin to see that this is an area, folks, that it's mind control. That's all I can say. I mean, I don't know how else you extrapolate. I mean, it may be, what's your take?
I definitely think this is very bad. I've been hearing about it for quite a while. I think it's very scary. I think they will do a lot of damage with this, a lot of damage to the human mind, to the human body. And, you know.
I just wanted to read this to people so you really begin to understand what happens. This kind of technology, and I'm just reading right here, which is in many of our homes, actually interacts with human skin and eyes. Shocking findings were made public via Israel research studies that were presented in an international conference on the subject last year. Below, you will find a lecture from Dr. Ben, I think it is Hezai, of the Department of Physics of Hebrew University.
Mm.
He goes through how the human sweat ducts are like a number of helical antennas which expose to these wavelengths that are put out of the devices such as employed by 5G technology.
Oh my goodness.
Listen, you can, it's just, and it goes on. Not good. So I just wanted to show you as well. This is the other side of it now, and this is in a smaller town in North Carolina. I think it's, is that Akron? What is that? I can't read that up there. But anyway, here it is in Los Angeles, the story rolling out. Well, what's all people freaked out about? No big deal. But again, I think this is an accumulative effect.
This is, yeah.
So anyway.
You know that in South Africa, there were some villages where poor Black people live in the rural areas where the people themselves will come out and say that they surround their town with cell phone towers. And then they watch as people die like flies. Young people, old people, they just die. And they know it's to do with the cell phone towers because it started happening after they put up the cell phone tower. And that's normal 3G.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So if 3G can do that to these people, you can imagine what 5G is going to do.
I don't like this. And I am doing my best to see how we can raise the frequency individually. So you wrote last week, late last week or the week before, on the planet. And here's, I thought was really interesting. The sinking nation in the Pacific is actually getting bigger. The planet, we keep saying, I'm hearing it more and more, Claudia, that more and more people are beginning to say that the Earth seems to be expanding. I believe you've said that, have you not?
I've said that it would expand because its gravitational energy will drop as the stellar cores drain it of energy. As the gravitational energy drops, a planet will expand.
There we go. So again, I pull these articles up when they come up because I do it for a twofold purpose. Number one, I think for keeping current in what's happening, but also it's very curious to see how often they do line up with what your papers write.
Yeah.
So it is. I'm just saying, is this serendipity or what? We're going to do, we've got 3 of your papers pulled up, but I thought this one is interesting. Comet 21P is coming in, and folks, we have a show coming that there's the long range telescopes. They say that this comet of the century, the millennium maybe, is coming in. So I just thought everyone check it out. It's in the nighttime sky. And by the way, Claudia, I don't know if you looked at some, and I did not pull it up, but I will get it. Seems to be a lot of comets coming into our solar system.
Yes, isn't it? And the thing, there are more and more. And what I realized is that these comets are actually stellar cores coming in from the planet X system toward the sun. That's what they are. That's why we have more and more of them come in, because there are more and more stellar cores coming towards the sun.
Well, and we have a paper pulled up on that. I just wanted to give everyone just a little taste on this. Look at your nighttime sky. I thought this one was interesting, Claudia. This is in physics.org. I was reading this, that now your group, the theoretical particle physicists, are now saying that they can group 7 photons that can act like billions in a grouping.
Interesting.
I thought that as well. Of course, you would be much more familiar with this, but as for a layman, as I was reading this, and this was actually sent to us by Renee, she sent this to me, which I looked at it and said, I think this is right up Claudia's wheelhouse. But
yeah, well, this is new to me as well, but I'm not surprised because quantum mechanics can do all kinds of things because you just have. It's the same as interference patterns with light. When you interfere the wave patterns of 7 photons, you can get a whole lot of new possibilities. That's basically what it is.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, we're making such advanced strides now, Claudia. I keep on thinking that in the next 10 years, we're going to have to rewrite most of the laws.
Yes, the thing is, from studying the stellar cores, I've basically had to rewrite the whole of physics. Just about everything we've been taught is wrong about gravity, about light. everything comes from light. They tell us everything the wrong way around. For example, for them, old stars are actually young stars, according to what I've learned from the stellar course. Black holes don't exist. Gravity, the gravitational constant is not constant. It depends on energy. And it's just about everything that's basic in physics is actually it's being taught wrong.
Well, I've been following, and I am not a physicist, but, I can follow at least some of the math gets a little complicated. But you're good at that. I am not.
Yeah, I do try to make my papers as simple as possible, but in the end, there's a lot of things that are intertwined.
Exactly. That
So,
you could write, I'm sure, pages of just the math alone, but for most of us, it would be like, all right, those are funny numbers.
I do try to make it as simple as possible. There are a few papers that are at a slightly higher level. It depends on, there was one paper that I specifically wrote because someone, and I don't want to mention names, someone specifically mentioned me and said that the stellar cores that I talk about are actually coronal cavities. So I wrote the article that addressed that very carefully, and it was written at a slightly higher level than I usually write. But in the end, the argument that I use should be understood by everybody.
Yes. Yeah. And we have several of yours pulled up. We're going to get there because it's becoming apparent, several things that I'm seeing is that now we cannot find dark matter. We can't find dark energy. MOND is out. We can't find what is the cohesion keeping everything together. They're having to go back to a complete ground zero. When we talk about the sun, the science that we have of the sun, even with our advanced instruments coming in, are predicated on certain models, certain algorithms. And, you can take raw data. It's like surveys. When they say, well, this survey come out, I don't give any credence to them because the fact is you can make the data do whatever you want the data for you to do.
Absolutely. And the thing is, any physicist or astronomer that comes out with an idea that will lead to the truth is usually blocked.
Yes.
So they don't want anybody to know that the sun is not powered by thermonuclear reactions. They don't want anybody to go into the research that will be based on the fact that there's no such thing as a Big Bang. They will block anybody from doing that type of research because that's what they want physics to be based on. They turn physics into a religion, basically.
Yes, thank you. And you were just reading my mind because, again, we have to set the foundation here is the fact that science has been the bastard child of the church. And that's how it's been for the last 2,000 years. And people cannot reconcile that. In fact, modern science today would tell you that they have nothing to do with religion at all. But that's the duplicity of the statement, because it's by the very conditioning that has taken place over the last 2 millennia, primarily out of the church in, number one, I think, suppressing what is really out there. Two, that is going to comply to a narrative. And as a result, the scientists that I've often said that the ones that were the true scientists always seem to pay the price. And many times it was their head or burning at the stake.
Yeah, the thing is, Wayne, what it's all about is truth. This world is not interested in truth. They are interested in power. They are interested in what gives them power, and that's usually not the truth. So one of the things that is they don't like is anything that has to do with the truth. So any physicist that is interested in learning the truth about the universe is going to get into trouble. And why do you think the Bible is in trouble? Because the Bible is about the truth, about the truth. It says, it talks of, Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And they don't like the truth.
Well, when you take it into the lens of that narrative, yeah, they're not going to like that at all. They're going to say, you know, so, and that's the conundrum. You know, what I tried to build on this channel here is this. You have to keep a malleable mind, a mind that is malleable enough to begin to accept thought. The thing about children is that they accept thoughts from many different points of view. And they're ready to accept that, even in conundrums. Mm-hmm. It's only us adults that we suddenly get into going, well, I'm going to tell you what, she don't know what she's saying. Hold on a second here. And so it's so odd when I see people try to, I often wonder what they really think they're gaining in here is. I never seen a God that needed someone to be standing up as their champion. You know, that they're...
The church that is against the truth is not on God's side.
I like that.
to say that not all churches that say that they are Christian are really Christian, because a truly Christian church would be looking for the truth. Because Jesus said, I am the truth.
Well, and that becomes the great conundrum is, you know, what is truth? So we got some of your articles up here. I mean, because I tell you, I keep telling you this, is that we have the pleasure of being able to share one of the best modern minds of our time in looking at science. So Claudia, you know, I just am a fan. So, you know. So I have a couple of your articles in here. This is article 366.
Yes.
I'll let you talk about this and I'll just drive.
Okay, so 2015 TG387 is also called the Goblin, is an extreme trans-Neptunian object, which means it actually never comes even close to Neptune. The closest distance it comes to the sun is 65 astronomical units. And you know, 1 astronomical unit is the distance between the sun and the Earth. And of course, Neptune's orbital radius is only 30 AU. So it does never get very close to the sun. And it's got an extremely elliptical orbit, in which you can see there.
Look at that.
Yeah, and it's one of two other objects. Two other objects have similar orbits. They're not too far off the ecliptic, but they have very elliptical orbits, and they go out to extreme distances away from the sun. For example, 2015 TG387, I think its aphelion position is about 2000 AU. So that's way outside of the solar system. But because it does come into 65 AU and is in a closed orbit, in other words, it's orbiting the sun, it's considered to be part of the solar system.
Wow.
Yeah. And then there are the two others. There's Sedna, and yeah. And the Goblin has an extreme eccentricity. I think it's 0.95. So it's close to 1. Yeah, there it is, 0.945. It's the eccentricity of its orbit. And at 1, when the eccentricity is 1, the orbit becomes open. It becomes a parabola. So that would mean that an object just comes in and makes a turn around the sun. It's not actually in orbit. So the fact that it's 0.945 means it's almost an open orbit. And then the other one, 2012 VP113 is 0.85 and Sedna is 0.69. So I just explain a little bit about the orbit of these objects.
Can we go back here for a second, Claudia?
Yeah.
So what's the pull? I mean, when we start getting objects out here that, as you said, 200 AU, is that what this or?
Yeah, that's it's greatest distance from the sun that it reaches is about 2,000 AU.
So the perihelion is, so my question is, when I look, what does the sun pull in this much type of a gravitational pull on objects that even go outside the Kuiper belt?
Yeah, well, you know that astronomers always say that these objects have been there since the beginning of the solar system. I don't believe that's the case. I think the solar system is always collecting new objects. There are always new objects coming in, and then they become part of the solar system. And I think this is the case here. But what the authors of this paper, which you sent me, were looking at is whether it was planet X, and the planet X is the hypothetical planet that is in the far reaches of the solar system, actually outside the solar system, because they placed it between 200 AU and 700 AU.
700 AU, wow.
Yeah, between 200 and 700, they placed this planet X, which is a large planet, which would exert a force on these planets and possibly pull them into this very eccentric orbit. This is what they were looking at. And they found that, yes, even though whether planet X is prograde or retrograde, it doesn't matter. 2015 TG387 in this system seems to be in a stable orbit. So that's what they were looking at. They also put other effects on it, other gravitational effects, including a galactic tide, which is the gravitational pull of the galaxy and several planets. And they found that this orbit is stable. So this is what they were looking at. But I'm actually interested in something else. That is that I think this object is a new acquisition for the solar system. I think it's one of those objects that came from the Planet X system. And this is how these objects come in, how they start out. They start in this elliptical orbit. And the larger ones that end up in the sun's corona may even come in a hyperbolic orbit and then go in, after turning around the sun, going to an elliptical orbit. And it was from this paper that I started thinking about this, because I started thinking about the orbit of this object and how extreme it is. And here I'm just discussing the eccentricity, the open orbits. At eccentricity, which we use E as the symbol for it, when it's 0, it means the object is in a circular orbit. And then between 0, 1, and 1, it's in an elliptical orbit. And we see the red one there is for E equals 0.5. And then at 1, you see the green one. The 1 is a parabola. And then above 1, it becomes hyperbolic.
Okay.
A straight line has an eccentricity of infinity.
So, Dr. Albers, on this, are we given any consideration to the possibility of a yet-to-be-discovered binary star to ours?
Well, there's always a possibility, but from what I've discovered, the local interstellar cloud is actually the Planet X system. So any stars that were out there within 30 light years, that's the extent of this cloud, would have been absorbed by this system because it's huge. It may have 10,000 dead stars in it because it's at least 10,000 times larger than our solar system.
You know, as I look at this, the picture here, Claudia, the thought keeps hitting me. It looks